Truth Frame 7 in World Memory takes a look at the Chinese Revolution, the fall of the Dragon Throne. The sound of a dying empire. A single lantern flickers in the Forbidden City. A child emperor sits on a throne too large for his small frame. Outside the palace walls, trains whistle, factories roar, and foreign flags rise over Chinese soil. The old world is collapsing. A new world is demanding to be born. This is the moment when memory breaks open, when a civilization with 2,000 years of imperial rule confronts the modern age and chooses revolution. The empire that could not hold. For centuries, China believed its empire was eternal. But by the early 1900s, the Qing dynasty was exhausted, weakened by foreign invasions, internal rebellions, and a leadership vacuum that left the nation drifting. Foreign powers carved out concessions. Railways, ports, and entire cities slipped out of Chinese control. The dynasty that once called itself the Middle Kingdom now found itself surrounded, pressured, and humiliated. The people felt it. The soldiers felt it. The world felt it. The empire was dying, but no one knew what would replace it. The spark. Wuchang, October 10, 1911. History often turns on accidents. In Wuchang, a revolutionary bomb accidentally exploded in a safe house. Police discovered the plot. Facing arrest, members of the new army mutinied. What began as a mistake became a revolution. Within hours, the rebels seized the city. Within days, provinces declared independence. Within weeks, the Qing dynasty was collapsing faster than anyone imagined. The revolution had no single mastermind, but it had a heartbeat. The revolutionaries, the many faces of change. Sun Yat-sen, the dreamer. A doctor. A wanderer. A man who spent years in exile, imagining a China reborn. He dreamed of a nation built on nationalism, democracy, and people's livelihood. He wasn't in China when the uprising began, but the revolution carried his ideas like a banner. Huang Xing and the new army, the fighters. These were the men who risked everything. Modern trained soldiers who believed China deserved better than corruption and foreign domination. Provincial elites, the pragmatists. They didn't want chaos. They wanted survival. And they knew the Qing could no longer protect China. Yuan Shikai, the opportunist. A general with ambition sharper than any sword. He negotiated with both sides, waiting for the moment when the empire would need him most. And when that moment came, he stepped forward not to save the dynasty, but to replace it. Why the revolution happened, the deeper memory. A dynasty without legitimacy. The Qing were Manchus ruling a Han majority. After decades of defeat, many saw them as foreign rulers who had failed China. A nation exploited. Unequal treaties. Foreign concessions. Economic humiliation. China was being carved up and the people knew it. A hunger for modernity. Railways, schools, industry all blocked by conservative officials clinging to the past. A rising national consciousness. Students, intellectuals, and reformers imagined a China that could stand equal with the world. A military ready to break. The new army was modern, disciplined, and tired of incompetence. The revolution was not a single event. It was the eruption of collective memory, the memory of humiliation, the memory of lost sovereignty, the memory of what China once was and could be again. The fall. The abdication of Puyi. Who, or what, is Puyi? Puyi was the last emperor of China, the final ruler of the Qing dynasty, and one of the most symbolically important figures in modern Chinese history. Born February 7, 1906. Became emperor at age 2 in 1908 after the Guangxu emperor died without an heir. Forced to abdicate in 1912 after the Xinhai Revolution ended 2,000 years of imperial rule. Lived in the Forbidden City until 1924, then fled to the Japanese concession in Tianjin. Installed by Japan as the puppet ruler of Manchukuo or Manchuria from 1934 to 1945. Captured by the Soviets in 1945, later returned to China and imprisoned as a war criminal. Pardoned in 1959 and lived as an ordinary citizen working as a gardener and later a researcher in Beijing. Died October 17, 1967. Why Puyi matters. Puyi represents the end of imperial China, the collapse of the Qing dynasty, China's transition into a republic, the manipulation of Chinese royalty by Japanese imperialism, a life that moved from absolute power to total powerlessness. In February 1912, the last emperor, a boy of 6, was forced to abdicate. The dragon throne was empty. The imperial seal was broken. The Republic of China was born. Sun Yat-sen became provisional president. But the real power shifted to Yuan Shikai, whose ambition would soon fracture the new republic. The revolution ended the empire, but it did not end the struggle for China's future. The republic that could not rest. The 1911 revolution was not the end of China's story. It was the beginning of a century of upheaval, warlordism, civil war, Japanese invasion, and the rise of competing visions for China's soul. But the revolution did something irreversible. It shattered the idea that emperors were eternal. It declared that the people, not a dynasty, would shape China's destiny. It opened the door to modern Chinese identity. When did China embrace communism? China formally embraced communism in 1949, when the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, defeated the nationalist government, Kuomintang, in the Chinese Civil War and proclaimed the People's Republic of China. Mao Zedong stood on Tiananmen Gate on October 1, 1949, declaring the birth of a communist state. But the roots go back earlier. 1921, the founding of the CCP. The Chinese Communist Party was founded in Shanghai in July 1921. Mao Zedong was one of the delegates at the first Congress of the CCP. 1920s to 1930s growth through peasant mobilization. Mao Zedong became convinced that China's revolution must come from the peasants, not the urban proletariat, after witnessing rural uprisings in Hunan in 1925. This insight shaped the CCP's strategy and distinguished Mao from other Marxists. 1934 to 1935 The Long March. The CCP retreated thousands of miles to escape nationalist forces. During this ordeal, Mao emerged as the undisputed leader of the communist movement. 1945 to 1949 Civil War victory. After World War II, the CCP defeated the nationalists. In 1949, Mao declared the People's Republic of China, marking the country's full embrace of communism. What role did Mao play? Mao's role was central, ideological, military, and symbolic. He was not just a participant, he was the architect of China's communist revolution. Founding member of the CCP. Mao attended the first Congress of the Chinese Communist Party in 1921, helping establish the party that would eventually rule China. Ideological innovator. Mao adapted Marxism to China's reality. Marxism emphasized urban workers. China was overwhelmingly rural. Mao argued that peasants were the true revolutionary force. This became Maoism, a distinct branch of communist thought. Organizer of peasant movements. After witnessing peasant protests in Hunan in 1925, Mao realized their revolutionary potential and began organizing them into political associations. This was a turning point. It gave the CCP a mass base. Military leader. Mao led the Autumn Harvest Uprising, the creation of rural Soviets, the Long March, where he consolidated leadership, the guerrilla war against Japan, the final civil war against the nationalists. His military strategies surround the cities from the countryside became the blueprint for CCP victory. Chairman of the CCP and the PRC. Mao became chairman of the CCP from 1943 until his death in 1976. Chairman of the People's Republic of China, 1954 to 1959. He was the face of the revolution and the architect of the new state. Summary: how China came to embrace communism and role of Mao. 1921, CCP founded. Mao became one of the founding members. 1920 to 30s, CCP grows through rural organizing. Maoism develops, mobilizes peasants. 1934 to 35, Long March, Mao becomes supreme leader. 1945 to 1949, Civil War, leads CCP to victory. 1949, PRC established, declares Communist China. 1950, 70s, consolidation of communist rule, Mao becomes chairman of CCP and PRC. China embraced communism because the CCP won the Civil War, and Mao was the strategist, ideologue, and leader who made that victory possible. In Truth Frame, World Memory, we return to these moments not to judge them, but to understand them, to see how nations remember, how they forget, and how they rise again. Because memory is not just history. Memory is power. This is Truth Frame, World Memory. If you believe these stories matter, like, reflect, remember and subscribe. Your comments are most welcome. Your support fuels the next frame of truth. Thank you and keep looking for my historical videos.